And it is now being announced that Stefon Diggs not only lost the Super Bowl, he also lost his girl in the same night.
The story centers on a highly public relationship that seemed powerful, glamorous, and full of promise, but ultimately collapsed under pressure. The narrative begins on what was expected to be a defining night, Super Bowl Sunday. Everything appeared set up for celebration, visibility, and success. A major artist publicly supported her partner throughout the season, showing loyalty in interviews, social media posts, and stadium appearances. The relationship became a pop culture spectacle, compared by fans to other famous celebrity-athlete pairings. Their public image was carefully constructed through shared appearances, affectionate messaging, and mutual promotion. However, beneath that polished surface, tensions had reportedly begun forming before the championship game even started. Observers noticed subtle changes in behavior and tone, especially during public interactions. A short, distant response during a media interview fueled speculation that something was already wrong. Social media audiences immediately analyzed body language and emotional cues, interpreting them as signs of a deeper conflict. What had looked like a celebratory moment slowly transformed into the beginning of a public unraveling.
Everybody wanted to see her at the games. They wanted to know her opinions, They wanted to see her support for him.
Reports suggested that relationship complications became more visible during the Super Bowl weekend itself. Observers claimed that individuals connected to the athletes' past relationships were present at the event, which intensified public scrutiny. Although such appearances could be normal in blended family dynamics, the timing and context made them controversial. Online commentators framed the situation as overlapping romantic histories colliding in a single high-profile environment. Rumors further escalated when alleged connections between different social circles surfaced, creating a narrative of tangled personal ties. While many of these claims remained unverified, they spread quickly across digital platforms. Public perception became shaped less by confirmed facts and more by viral speculation. This environment of rumor and interpretation heightened emotional stakes for everyone involved. The championship game itself ended in a decisive loss, amplifying tension and disappointment. Observers noted that the athlete's performance did not meet expectations, which intensified criticism. Soon after halftime, the artist reportedly left the venue, which fueled additional speculation about the state of the relationship.
But it was not only the good luck, it was her facial expressions, it was her body language.
The aftermath of the game quickly turned into a broader public spectacle. Plans for an expensive celebratory event reportedly collapsed, symbolizing how dramatically expectations had shifted within hours. Social media activity then provided the clearest sign of separation when both individuals unfollowed each other online. Sources claimed the relationship had ended, although reconciliation was not entirely ruled out. The most explosive rumors involved allegations of post-game behavior that suggested betrayal, but no verified evidence confirmed those claims. Despite the lack of confirmation, public opinion formed rapidly. A brief cryptic message posted online was widely interpreted as confirmation of emotional closure. The situation drew attention because the couple had recently welcomed a child, which added a deeply personal dimension to the breakup. Commentators framed the timeline as especially tragic because the relationship's collapse occurred so soon after the birth. Public sympathy and criticism blended together, producing intense online debate. The story became not only about a breakup, but about patterns of trust, vulnerability, and public exposure.
You would be there, front row and center, to hold him and console him whether he lost or he won. The fact that she left speaks volumes.
To understand the reaction, many observers revisited the artist's previous high-profile marriage. That earlier relationship had been marked by repeated cycles of reconciliation and separation, widely documented through media coverage and personal statements. The marriage included public celebrations, shared milestones, and family growth, but it was also overshadowed by allegations of infidelity and emotional strain. The artist had previously described the emotional toll of that period, emphasizing how difficult it was to rebuild personal stability afterward. When she later entered a new relationship, Supporters believed she was moving toward healing and emotional security. The new partnership appeared to offer reassurance and support during a vulnerable period. Public declarations of trust and commitment reinforced that perception. However, when the new relationship began showing signs of instability, observers interpreted it as a painful repetition of past patterns. This sense of repetition intensified emotional reactions among fans. Many saw the situation not as an isolated event, but as part of a larger cycle of disappointment.
And it is now being announced that Stefon Diggs not only lost the Super Bowl, he also lost his girl in the same night.
The new relationship progressed rapidly, moving from public confirmation to major life milestones within a short period. Public appearances, interviews, and social media content portrayed a narrative of renewal and hope. Supporters viewed the relationship as evidence of personal growth after hardship. However, critics argued that the pace of commitment introduced vulnerability. Reports of legal challenges, interpersonal conflicts, and complicated family dynamics surrounding the athlete added further controversy. Although these issues were contested or denied, they influenced public perception. Observers debated whether warning signs had been present from the beginning. Some framed the situation as a lesson about trusting words versus observing consistent behavior. Others focused on broader themes of emotional labor and loyalty in highly visible relationships. The tension between private reality and public image became a central theme of the story. The relationship's collapse was therefore interpreted as both personal heartbreak and public cautionary tale.
And he just makes me feel safe and very confident and very strong. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was literally having a panic attack.
The reaction from the artist's former partner added another layer to the narrative. Public comments, deleted messages, and perceived expressions of satisfaction were widely discussed online. Many observers interpreted these reactions as competitive or vindictive, while others viewed them as attempts at humor or commentary. Regardless of intent, the response intensified media attention and fueled online debate. Viral posts, memes, and commentary transformed the situation into a broader cultural conversation. The story became less about specific individuals and more about themes of pride, rivalry, and public validation. Online communities debated who was at fault, whether personal growth had occurred, and what outcomes represented victory or loss. The idea that someone could win emotionally without direct involvement became a recurring talking point. This framing highlighted how public narratives often simplify complex personal situations into symbolic victories and defeats.
And one time he just told me let me heal you. Give me a chance for me to heal you. And it's okay.
After months of guarding her peace and rebuilding her sense of self following her separation from Offset, Cardi B made a decision that, at the time, felt like hope rather than risk when she allowed Stefon Diggs into a chapter of her life she had carefully protected. For half a year, she had stepped away from emotional turbulence, focusing on healing, privacy, and personal stability, learning how it felt to exist without constant conflict. When their relationship became public by mid-2025, social media displayed curated moments of optimism, images suggesting renewal, captions implying growth, and a narrative of moving forward after hardship. By early autumn, her appearance on CBS Mornings in conversation with Gayle King projected confidence and calm as she shared personal news that symbolized commitment and future planning. The pace of events, however, intensified public scrutiny. Observers questioned the speed with which milestones were reached, interpreting rapid progression as either courage or vulnerability, depending on perspective. At the same time, controversies and allegations surrounding Diggs' personal life circulated widely online, transforming individual claims into a cumulative narrative that shaped perception regardless of verification. Discussions of legal challenges, interpersonal conflicts, and complex family dynamics contributed to a portrait that many commentators described as chaotic and unstable. Public reaction was not simply judgmental, it was analytical, with audiences examining how hope can coexist with warning signs and how emotional investment can override caution when belief in change feels sincere. Cardi was reported to have set firm expectations within the relationship, attempting to establish boundaries rooted in lessons from past experiences, yet public commentary suggested that patterns often persist despite intention. Meanwhile, the reemergence of commentary from Offset added another layer of tension, as subtle online reactions, deleted posts, and public remarks were interpreted as competitive symbolism rather than mere coincidence. Speculation intensified when Diggs' professional transition to the New England Patriots coincided with renewed online exchanges, fueling narratives of rivalry that blurred personal and professional spheres. Rumors of confrontation, whether confirmed or denied, contributed to a climate of anticipation where every public gesture carried interpretive weight. By early 2026, the convergence of unresolved legal attention, competitive pressure, and escalating public discourse created a moment that observers framed as a turning point rather than an isolated incident. Throughout the unfolding events, the central theme that dominated commentary was not simply controversy but resilience, the tension between belief in transformation and the persistence of repeating cycles. Supporters emphasized her capacity to recover, to prioritize self-worth, and to continue creating regardless of personal upheaval. Critics framed the situation as a cautionary narrative about the risks of hope placed in uncertain foundations. Ultimately, the story evolved into a broader reflection on agency, perception, and the enduring challenge of distinguishing promise from pattern when personal lives unfold under relentless public observation. When Offset posted just 2 words, "I won," the message detonated across social media like a cultural shockwave, instantly becoming one of those moments where context wasn't written but universally understood. No caption, no emojis, no explanation. Yet anyone who had followed the turbulent storyline involving Cardi B and Stefon Diggs immediately grasped the implication. The statement felt less like celebration and more like a quiet, calculated declaration of vindication. Observers described the energy as ironic, petty, and darkly comedic because the perceived victory did not come from transformation, accountability, or reconciliation. Instead, public perception framed it as the triumph of patience, the image of someone who did nothing except wait for events to unravel on their own. The symbolism was powerful. While one relationship collapsed under pressure on one of the biggest stages in American sports culture, another figure stepped forward to claim emotional validation without participating in the conflict itself. Online commentary turned the situation into narrative theater, where personal drama intersected with public spectacle. The internet amplified the moment through parody accounts, viral edits, and commentary threads that blended humor with criticism. One widely circulated post captured the chaotic mood by combining celebrity imagery with AI-edited visuals referencing the Wolf of Wall Street and fan aesthetics associated with Nicki Minaj, using an altered clip of Margot Robbie to dramatize the narrative in exaggerated pop culture style. The result was a moment where fandom rivalry, celebrity gossip, and digital manipulation converged into a single viral phenomenon. Debate quickly shifted from the post itself to the meaning behind it. Commentators questioned whether emotional vindication could be considered a victory at all, especially when it emerged from another person's public disappointment. Yet the simplicity of the message gave it unusual power. Its ambiguity invited interpretation, and interpretation fueled engagement. Within hours, timelines filled with memes portraying symbolic scoreboards of relationships rather than games. The championship loss became intertwined with personal speculation, turning a sporting event into a narrative device within a larger cultural story about ego, timing, and perception. The reaction escalated further when high-profile figures joined the conversation, including 50 Cent, whose commentary reinforced the framing of simultaneous professional and personal defeat. Humor dominated the surface, but beneath the jokes existed a more serious discussion about patterns of loyalty, imbalance of emotional investment, and the risks of performing relationships in public spaces. Social media transformed private disappointment into collective analysis, where audiences interpreted gestures, silence, and timing as evidence within an unfolding narrative. Ultimately, the post became more than a message. It functioned as a cultural symbol illustrating how modern celebrity conflicts are shaped not only by actions but by perception, timing, and the interpretive power of digital audiences who transform individual moments into shared mythology. As the jokes spread across social media, one viral comment captured what many people were already thinking, turning criticism into dark humor about the chaos surrounding Stefon Diggs and the unraveling relationship narrative tied to Cardi B. Memes came from every direction, exaggerated claims circulated widely, and timelines filled with satire that blurred the line between commentary and entertainment. Yet beneath the mockery and viral posts, a deeper conversation began to take shape, one that moved beyond gossip and into questions about trust, accountability, and emotional investment in highly public relationships. Observers debated what it means to continuously give loyalty, time, and public support to someone whose actions repeatedly generate controversy. The discussion was not only about individuals but about patterns of belief, forgiveness, and public defense that can exist even when warning signs appear repeatedly. Many commentators pointed out how symbolic power operates in celebrity relationships, where social capital, influence, reputation, and visibility becomes a resource exchanged within partnerships. In this narrative, public support was framed as a form of currency, something offered generously and visibly. The criticism intensified because supporters believed that effort and loyalty appeared unbalanced. Public appearances, game attendance, and vocal defense during controversies were interpreted as demonstrations of commitment. Meanwhile, interviews and public remarks were scrutinized for signs of emotional distance or reluctance. A widely discussed interview moment involving Funny Marco amplified this perception when a question about commitment was met with a lighthearted but non-committal response that many interpreted as symbolic hesitation rather than reassurance. Online discourse framed this exchange as evidence of differing priorities, reinforcing a narrative of imbalance between emotional investment and public reciprocation. At the same time, controversy surrounding legal matters and professional performance added additional layers of scrutiny. The convergence of personal speculation, professional pressure, and digital amplification created a situation where perception became more influential than confirmation. Public commentary framed the sequence of events as a chain reaction rather than isolated incidents. Disappointment in competition, unresolved legal attention, and relational uncertainty merging into a single narrative. Art critics argue that association with ongoing controversy can reshape public image regardless of individual achievements. Supporters, however, emphasized resilience, autonomy, and the importance of separating personal setbacks from professional identity. The debate therefore evolved into something larger than celebrity gossip. It became a reflection on how modern audiences interpret loyalty, responsibility, and consequence within relationships that unfold under constant observation. In this way, the story functioned not merely as entertainment, but as a cultural conversation about trust, perception, and the risks of emotional commitment in a world where private experiences are instantly transformed into public narratives. When the championship result made it clear that the Seattle Seahawks had sealed the outcome, the internet quickly transformed a sports loss into a symbolic cultural moment involving Cardi B, Stefon Diggs, and Offset. Online commentary framed the situation as a layered narrative of timing, perception, and emotional consequence. Viral posts suggested that emotional victories and defeats were being tallied alongside athletic results, turning private relationships into symbolic scorecards. Critics and commentators debated whether blame should fall on individual choices or broader relational patterns shaped by public visibility and expectation. Many observers emphasized that the situation reflected a recurring cycle seen in highly public partnerships: intense loyalty, visible support, and eventual public scrutiny. Discussions focused on emotional labor and the imbalance that can emerge when one partner's public support appears greater than the other's. Public appearances, advocacy during controversy, and visible displays of loyalty were interpreted as significant investments of personal reputation. At the same time, unresolved controversy, legal uncertainty, and inconsistent public messaging were seen as destabilizing factors that shaped perception regardless of confirmed outcomes. Online audiences framed the sequence of events as a dramatic arc: anticipation, disappointment, speculation, and reinterpretation, amplified by the speed of digital discourse. The narrative expanded beyond individuals to reflect broader conversations about resilience, self-determination, and identity independent of relationship outcomes. Commentators noted that artistic legacy and professional achievement persist beyond moments of public controversy. The continuation of scheduled performances and creative work was widely interpreted as evidence of forward momentum rather than retreat. Observers emphasized that public identity is not defined solely by relational success or failure, but by sustained action and creative expression. Meanwhile, uncertainties surrounding professional and legal futures contributed to a contrast that intensified public interpretation of the moment. Social media transformed the story into a broader reflection on how fame magnifies personal transitions, converting private decisions into shared cultural narratives. Ultimately, the dominant theme that emerged from commentary and public reaction was resilience, the idea that public disappointment does not end personal trajectory. The anticipation of future performances, including appearances in Palm Springs, became symbolic of continuation and reinvention. In this interpretation, the most enduring ring was not tied to a championship or relationship, but to creative achievement and public connection. The narrative therefore shifted from rivalry to recovery, from speculation to symbolism, illustrating how modern celebrity culture continuously reframes personal events into broader stories about identity, endurance, and the ongoing negotiation between public perception and personal direction.
Let them go. Y'all are bigger and better without them. Y'all are doing phenomenal things that y'all do not need to be attached to these trash men.